Clancy Brown, the voice of Mr. Krabs?
No, I think it's Tom Clancy. Seriously.
But it's spelled... Oh, it is spelled
I know, but like in his... No, it's different. But like in his... Inspired by.
Fair enough.
Welcome to Namely 90s. Wow. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
That's right, you're listening to Namely 90s. My name's Andrew, and over there's Brandon.
That's me.
You can find us online at namely90s.com or on Instagram at namely90s.
That's going to screw you up now, isn't it?
Twitter. You can also find this...
we still have the Twitter. It's just... I'm not putting any effort into it.
You can also find us on YouTube every Monday at youtube.com/@namely90s. And if you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/namely90s and sign up for one of the support levels. That's one of the 90s. Yeah. I'm out of practice, apparently, because it's been a week.
Baby.
Which is the normal amount of time.
It has been... Yeah.
What?
Did we record? I think we recorded Tuesday last week.
Maybe. So, what have you been up to this week?
This week, not much. I got a haircut today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can tell because I'm wearing a hat. No, I don't know. So we did the state swap.
Yes, state swap. We always do that, it seems like. Not always, but we've done it before, I feel like. No. We would do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, yeah. No, maybe. I don't know.
So, yeah, you came up to Washington, and not quite simultaneously, we went down to California.
It was the same day.
It was the same day, so pretty simultaneously.
and then I returned to California the same day you returned to Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, we went to different airports, so
yes. I did wave. I saw SeaTac on the way to Payne
nice,
Field. So.
Nice. I was not paying attention, I think.
Although I do have to say, the Wi-Fi was garbage on both airplanes.
Wow, the Wi-Fi on your giant moving metal bird.
No, listen. So I couldn't even sustain connection to the router.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't stream the movies, which are not actually streamed over the cloud. They have a streaming server on the plane.
Right.
So you couldn't even stream the locally hosted movies and such.
Yeah, that's fair.
If someone paid for that would be annoying. And also, I was on the plane, I was like, that's a first world problem. But we live in the first world. So we should expect it to work.
It's free. I've never had it work well, like the in-flight Wi-Fi. So
no, but although apparently the newer, bigger planes is a much better system. This is an older, crappier plane from Brazil. So
but it's newer than the older, crappier Brazil
There's a
planes.
56K modem somewhere in the underbelly of the airplane that's there's just a long telephone cable being dragged behind the airplane.
I mean, what it probably is when it works well for you is that no one else realizes they can use this function. So this time there's probably two people using it.
It's kind of add capacity. It's just, I feel like if you're going to sell it for $19 or whatever, which I didn't pay, but if you're going to sell it, it should work. I'm just saying.
Right. And if you're dumb enough to buy that for a 2-hour flight, then it should work. Yeah.
It still somehow sent pictures over texting.
That's true. It didn't do it for me when I did it.
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I was impressed that it somehow knew to not do that. Yeah. How was your trip?
Oh, it was nice, very relaxing. Apparently California had been having a deluge of rain, which you know about.
Yep.
And then we got there.
River.
It was sunny for 4 days.
I hate you so much.
Brilliant. It was 63 degrees, brilliant weather. I mean, not shorts weather, but just very comfortable. I got some sun. Now that I have a larger forehead from the receding hairline, it burns easily.
Oh, that's fun.
No, we went to my wife's cousin's wedding. We hung out with family, and then we flew back.
I should ask you which cousin off air later. And that's fun. I got to see family, got to fly on a plane.
Wait, you have family where you went?
No, I was recapping what you were saying.
Oh, I was like, I didn't know that.
No. I guess I will tell you about my time. I went a day early, so I could go tasting in Walla Walla. I was in Eastern Washington and Richland for a wine camp thing.
Whoa, hold time out.
Yeah.
What day were you in Walla Walla?
The Friday.
Friday.
Yes.
My parents were in Walla Walla up until
Thursday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Tasting as well.
Oh.
The place so nice, they named it twice.
We almost ran into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I should go tasting with them next time since they seem to be there more often than you.
There's also a prison there.
Are they visiting the prison or
no? But you have to go by 2 prisons to get to Walla Walla.
Oh, from the Idaho route.
Well, they went down to 395. Yeah, somewhere in Idaho. Washtahoe.
Yes. And it's right, and you could just drive Walla Walla. The Walla Walla AVA encompasses parts of Oregon too. But yeah, I tasted at Pursued by Bear, which is owned by Kyle MacLachlan. The Stranger Things, the guy from not Stranger Things.
It's not owned by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Twin Peaks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Twin Peaks. He was like the original Dune guy.
Twin Peaks, is that a porn movie? No, just kidding. Okay.
I'm pretty sure Twin Peaks
that
was
works
the basis,
on so many levels, by the way.
Not only nice, the basis for the X-Files being successful. It's where one Fox Mulder, David Duchovny, got his start in television. As a FBI agent who was trans.
It named Mox Folder.
Yeah, it was pre the X-Files, but
no, I know.
He was the mayor in Portlandia for more modern reference, and then went to Knocking Point, which is owned by Stephen Amell, who was Green Arrow on all those DC shows. I went to Barron's because my aunt, my late aunt, she was selling her glass there. So they had a bunch of her glass art on display at that tasting room. And then I went to Guardian just to rub it in one of our old classmates' faces that I was tasting there and she wasn't.
Ha!
Yeah.
Take that.
But yeah, and then I also brought my disc golf discs, so I played 3 rounds of disc golf over the 4 days I was there, and yeah, it wasn't bad. It was
vacation. It's nice. It's kind of vacation, not really vacation for you. Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, half and half. Oh, I also saw Janelle. You remember Janelle from one of the friends of the podcast.
Yes.
So she's living out in like a middle of nowhere Oregon.
In a yurt?
No, I think they have a house. They're not like they're renting a place.
Isn't that the part of Oregon that like wants to secede from the rest of Oregon?
It is. So I make fun
of it.
Yeah. So I make fun of her for that all the time. But yeah, she had just shot another episode of That Girl Got Ghosted. Which I edited the last episode, so check that out on YouTube. That Girl Got, or I don't really know how they found it. YouTube.com/@thatgirlgotghosted? Question mark?
Okay, she shot the episode, so she made the episode, converted it to a actual physical format, and then shot it with a gun, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how the film industry works.
That's how the film industry works in America.
Yeah, in the Eastern. Oh, they went to Spokane. So I was like,
wow.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, there's a haunted hotel in Spokane.
The haunted hotel. Which one that is?
I will ask her and let you know. Anyway.
The ghost is just a homeless man.
Most likely. Houseless. Well, I mean, they're at a hotel, so they don't really have a home.
True.
Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
Is that...
Yeah, why not?
10 minutes. I didn't start.
That's why we're here.
Until right now. It's probably gonna be a long one. So let's go. Why are we here? Do you know why we're here? Do you know what we're doing today? It's a deep dive episode.
It's deep dive time, and you're doing another one because there was no possible way I could have prepped one.
Yes, I might even be doing the next one. We'll have to discuss that after we finish recording. But yes, we are in honor of this week in the United States. The Super Mario Brothers movie is coming out, and we wanted to look back at the first video game movie, which was coincidentally released in the 90s. The first movie based on a video game, Super Mario. Mario. God, the naming's weird. 1 second. Super Mario Brothers is the name of the film.
Super Mario Bros. Or Brothers, the film.
Yes. Which let's deep dive into Super Mario Bros. In 1985, yes, this is beyond our purview, whatever, go F yourself. Nintendo released Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System, the first 2D side-scrolling platformer to feature Mario, who first appeared in the arcade game Donkey Kong and as the villain in the sequel, Donkey Kong Jr. Throughout the 80s, Mario appeared in many NES games, from golf to tennis to Dr. Mario to Yoshi, as well as 3 mainline sequels, including Super Mario Bros. 2, which is called the Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels in the United States, Super Mario Bros. 2, the US version, which is known as Super Mario USA in Japan, and originally adapted from Japan's game called Doki Doki Panic.
Why?
Andrew's already loving this.
No, there's just so many names and they're different in different places, and it's just very, like you said, the naming convention is very confusing.
It was a little more Wild Westy back then, because we have the Japan stuff and we have the America stuff, and then finally it gets back on the same track with Super Mario Bros. 3, the definitive Mario game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And also, Super Mario Land for the Game Boy releases in 1989, and which debuted the character of Princess Daisy. Remember that for later. And finally, in 1990, Super Mario World was released in Japan on the Super Famicom. It was released in 1991 for the Super Nintendo in the United States, and in 1992 for the rest of the world. Yeah. So, with Mario's popularity, he moved into other media as well. The first was cartoons, starting with CBS's Saturday Supercade cartoon that featured many arcade characters in 1983. There's Donkey Kong, there's Mario, Q*bert, Pac-Man. You know,
Sounds terrific.
Yes, they got 2 seasons out of it somehow.
Wow.
Yeah. Next was a Japanese OVA, which is an acronym for original video animation, called, which I believe is like their direct-to-video type thing, called Super Mario Bros. The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach. That was in 1986.
Okay.
In 1989, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show was an animated series that featured live-action skits from former WWF manager Captain Lou Albino as Mario and Danny Wells as Luigi. Do you remember this one? Have you ever seen this one?
No. I don't think I've ever seen any shows. I think I may have seen part of the movie.
Okay. And then finally, there are 2 other animated series without the live action stuff called The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, which I really always thought was a dumb name. Because,
I see what you mean.
In 1990. And then finally, Super Mario World, which aired in 1991. And with all these semi-successes in alternate media, Nintendo thought the Mario brand could handle anything, which is why when they were approached by Roland Joffe from a production company called Light Movie, they thought, why not?
And, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly.
Just wait.
Yep, just wait. And they gave them the rights to Mario for $2 million while retaining merchandising rights through a creative partnership. So, Nintendo took a laissez-faire approach to producing the movie, and Joffe heads back to Hollywood to make it. The first script was written by Barry Morrow, who is best known for writing the story of Rain Man, as well as co-writing the screenplay for the movie. His script followed Mario and Luigi on an existential road trip similar to the plot of Rain Man. Morrow described it as a study in contrast, like Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello. Do you understand? You know those references, right?
Not really, but
like a comedy duo. One's a straight man, one's the fool. And that would have, and it would have an odyssey and a quest like the game itself. One of the co-producers later said that the story was more of a serious drama piece as opposed to a fun comedy. So
I feel like you could point to like dozens of shows or movies that use the existential road trip trope. And that just sounds like the stupidest possible thing ever.
Like the movie Sex Drive.
Mario. Like,
yes.
Why are they in a car? Is the car going down a pipe? Is there a mushroom in the car?
There is cars in Mario Kart and Mario Party.
Did they take mushrooms before they got in the car? No, that was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I mean, it could be like Rain Man meets Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas meets Mario.
Honestly,
Mario
I feel
world.
like the Barry Morrow script was the only thing that could have made this movie worse. It sounds horrible.
You might be right, but there were so many rewrites. Next, it went to screenwriters Jim Genuine, and
John S. Becker,
like the band, Genuine, my pony. Wow. Anyway, Thomas Parker, Jim Genuine were brought on to the they were brought on to write a more traditional adaptation. They wanted to do it in the vein of kind of like a Wizard of Oz style thing, which kind of ends up in the movie, more or less. They wanted to subvert fairy tale cliches and satirize them and focus on the relationship between Mario and Luigi. And
that would have been awful. Like, what does Super Mario and Luigi have to do with fairy tales?
That's
I guess there's a princess.
There's a princess and...
that fairy tale about the two Italian plumbers.
I mean,
I feel like that's just the beginning of a racist joke, by the way.
They do kind of do like a Hansel and Gretel thing at one point.
All this stuff is so tired, but people are like, I mean, it was the 80s, 90s.
Early 90s.
So, like, it wasn't as tired then. But wow.
Like, even in a 2000 interview, they compared their script to Shrek in the way it was subverting fairy tales. Let's see. Then it moved on, the first director, Greg Beeman, best known for the film License to Drive.
So not well known at all, is what you're saying.
Nothing I know. Nothing I recognized him for. He was on board to direct. They're in pre-production, and he was booted by the producers after his movie Mom and Dad Save the World had a poor reception in the box office. And if you look up the poster for that, it stars who's the food critic in Friends? John.
Oh, John Lovitz.
John Lovitz.
Critic,
yeah, he's the main character in that movie. Or the star of that film.
He sucks. Honestly, John Lovitz sucks.
He has a shtick, and he should probably stick to it.
He should stick to it, if you will.
Harold Ramis of Ghostbusters and Groundhog Day fame was offered the job but declined and called it one of his smartest career decisions, even though he was a fan of the game.
It was one of my smartest career decisions.
That's Jim Henson.
Yeah. And Ray Romano and Kermit. Kermit.
Gotcha.
It's a Family Guy bit.
It's a Family Guy.
I can't get a word in edgewise.
I can't. Yes. Joffe then thought of Max Headroom, a series set in a futuristic dystopia ruled by an oligarchy of television networks and features the characters and media personality Max Headroom. So he brought in the creator of that show. Do you know what Max Headroom is? Like, even after that weird statement I just said, do you have the idea of it? Do you remember what it looks like?
Not at all. I mean, I remember it just sounds like something you would look for in a vehicle.
I feel like you would hate it. Nice.
I've just read about it here, and yes, I would.
In Back to the Future Part 2, he's the character that's like the first floating head in the 80s cafe that comes and takes Marty's order.
Wow, this looks so stupid.
Yeah, there you go. So they brought the creators, Rocky Morton and Mel Jonkel, on board. I think they were a husband and wife duo too, but I don't remember if that's true or not. Morton said, "We come from the Tim Burton School of Filmmaking because our background's in animation and comic books. So we started off basing everything in reality and then tried to have fun and exaggerate as much as possible." Just as a reminder, 91 Batman Returns came out. That was the second Tim Burton Batman. And I think 92 A Nightmare Before Christmas came out as well. So Tim Burton was popular at the time. Joffe, Morton, and Jenkel agreed their approach to adapting the video game should follow the darker tone popularized by the 1989 Batman movie and the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which you've never seen. But I submit is the better of the two Turtles movies. Well, there are three, but whatever. Morton described the film as a prequel to the video game that tells the true story behind Nintendo's inspiration. So fucking pretentious.
Yeah.
Joffe viewed the games as a mixture of Japanese fairy tales and a bit of modern America, so they wanted to create a slightly mythic vision of New York. Screenwriter Parker Bennett elaborated. This new screenwriter, by the way, right? Our take on it was that Nintendo interpreted the events from our story and came up with the video game. We basically worked backwards. The film took inspiration from Die Hard, Mad Max, and Blade Runner. Because that's what you want in a Mario game, right?
This movie is brought to you by ADHD. This is a nightmare.
Right? And we're not even through pre-production.
No wonder it was... Never mind.
It gets worse. Despite working well with the directors, Bennett and Runte, those were the current writers, working with Morton and Jonkel.
Martin and Junkel.
They were dismissed by producers for being too comedic, and the British writing team of Dick Clement and Ian Lafreniere, that's not a British name, were brought in to deliver a more adult and feminist tone. So Princess Daisy, the female protagonist, and Lena's roles were expanded, while Bertha, a black woman, was introduced.
You named the black woman Bertha?
So you're not... Yes. Based off of the... it's even more offensive because you should Google search the term Big Bertha, Mario Brothers. The character of Bertha was based off of the giant fat fish that eats you.
What the hell?
The script
was thinking.
Yeah. They signed the main cast and finally convinced Bob Hoskins to take the role of Mario and moved into pre-production again. However, the producers feared that the project had both been skewed too far from the intended young adult /family audiences and became too effects heavy to film within the original budget. So without informing the directors or the signed cast, they hired a new screenwriters, Ed Solomon and Ryan Rowe, to provide a more family-friendly script with more restrained effects and requirements. The script doctoring was partially motivated by Disney purchasing the film's distribution rights. And the cast only discovered the new screenplay upon arriving at the shooting location in Wilmington, North Carolina. Yep. And then Rowe left to work on another project, but Solomon remained on for several weeks to provide additional rewrites. And then, without invitation, the former writers, Bennett and Runte, took a trip to Wilmington, where they were rehired and would remain through the end of production to provide final rewrites. dialogue for ADR and dialogue for the expository animated dinosaur intro opening, which I had completely forgot about until I rewatched the film recently, and it was a mess. So, with all that ready, we have to get a cast. Dustin Hoffman wanted to be Mario, but he was turned away. They offered the role of Mario and the role of director to Danny DeVito, but he declined.
Interesting.
He was riding that Batman Returns high, I guess, as the Penguin. Tom Hanks was considered for Luigi, but due to some box office failures, he was removed from consideration. Bonfire of the Vanities was a bomb, and Joe versus the Volcano was only like a middling, mild success.
They're looking kind of dumb now, but I'm glad Tom Hanks did not do this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, the two movies prior to those two movies was like Big and Turner and Hooch. So like those were popular. Yes, I'm glad he didn't do this movie as well, or else he would be hosting the Daily Show this week instead of John Leguizamo. Both Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton both turned down the role of King Koopa.
It's fair enough.
So
I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger would have made turtle jokes the entire time, like turtle puns.
Get in the half shell. I don't know. Bob Hoskins was cast as Mario, John Leguizamo as Luigi. Initially, Hoskins disliked the script and did not want to do another children's film. Quote, "I'd done Roger Rabbit. I'd done Hook. I didn't want to become like Dick Van Dyke." That's my Hoskins. He wondered how he would. When asked how he would prepare for the role, he was said, "I'm in the right shape. I got a mustache. I worked as a plumber's apprentice for about 3 weeks and set the plumber's boots on fire with a blowtorch."
Good.
Leguizamo had a quote that says, "You always see a lot of Italians playing Latin people, like Al Pacino did in Scarface. Now it's our turn."
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Dennis Hopper gets cast as King Koopa. Samantha Mathis is Princess Daisy and her own mother in a flashback. Fisher Stevens is Iggy Koopa.
Yes.
Andrew knows him best
Chuck Fishman
from Early Edition. Oh, yes. Richard Edison plays opposite Fisher Stevens as Spike Koopa. I halfway through watching the movie, I'm like, that's the dude from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was the valet that stole the Ferrari while they were in town. Fiona Shaw plays Lena. She was Mrs. Dursley in the Harry Potter films, but is a great British actress. Gianni Russo as Anthony Scapelli, who he was Carl Rizzi in The Godfather, which a film Andrew will never watch. Typecasting for the Italian-American business owner that has mafia ties. Wow. Lance Henriksen as the king. He plays Bishop in the Alien franchise, or as Andrew might know him, Frank Black in Millennium and The X-Files.
Okay.
And Dan Castellaneta was the weird voiceover in the beginning of the movie, and he sounds like Homer Simpson while doing it too.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Why is that?
Why they would just randomly have? I guess.
So there's like this terrible CG graphic intro, and they have him do the voiceover. Nothing else in the movie, just that. Maybe, yeah. It was a weird choice. I think they were afraid Jurassic Park would take the thunder from them.
Got it.
Yeah. Several weeks before shooting was to begin, Disney purchased the distribution rights, like I said, and they demanded significant rewrites.
This is a recipe for success.
Oh, yes. Morton said the final result was a script that was not at all like the script that he and co-director Jenkel or the cast had signed on to film. The tone of the new script was not compatible with the sets, which were already built.
What?
Yeah. Leguizamo said it's 8-year-olds who play the game, and that's where the movie needed to be aimed. But the directors kept trying to insert new material. They shot scenes with strippers and with other sexually explicit content. Oh, you should also just type in Super Mario Bros. Bertha into image search.
Oh, okay. I did.
Okay. Which all got edited out anyway. In a 2007 interview, Hoskins said, It was the worst thing the worst thing I ever did. Super Mario Brothers. It was a effing nightmare. The whole experience was a nightmare. It was a husband and wife team directing whose arrogance had been mistaken for talent. After so many weeks, their own agent told them to get off the set. Effing nightmare. Effing idiots.
I love it.
Dennis Hopper disparaged the production in 2008 and said it was a nightmare. Very honestly, that movie, it was a husband and wife directing who were both control freaks and wouldn't talk before they made decisions. Anyway, I was supposed to go down there for 5 weeks and I was there for 17. It was so over budget.
What a hot mess.
Yeah. But they made the film.
And now let's go to Brandon for the Namely 90s Minute.
Welcome back to our mid-episode break, Namely 90s Minute. Every week we look back at a culturally relevant show, movie, or piece of pop culture that probably helps stoke the algorithm. This week, in honor of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, we're looking back at the first video game movie ever, Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Is a 1993 fantasy-adventure film based on Nintendo's Super Mario video game franchise, starring Smee from Hook, Sid the Sloth from Ice Age, Billy from Easy Rider, Krista from Ferngully The Last Rainforest, Hugo Baker from Secession, and Mrs. Dursley from the Harry Potter franchise. Mario and Luigi Mario live on Earth, but there's a parallel dimension where dinosaurs have evolved into humanoids, where Princess Daisy comes from, and was left as an orphan on Earth 20-something years ago. Little orphan Daisy, now an NYU archaeology student who found dinosaur bones under the Brooklyn Bridge, where a rival plumbing company to the Mario Bros. Is trying to build a new building, meets Luigi and gets taken on a double date with his brother and his brother's random girlfriend Daniela. Because Pauline was right there in the lore, but no, they went with Daniela from Brooklyn. Daisy gets kidnapped by Iggy and Spike, but not before giving her MacGuffin to Luigi, who chases after her across dimensions with his brother. In the new world of Dino Hatton, the dinosaur world's equivalent of Manhattan, very clever, they meet Bertha, who steals the gem, then go on a quest to get it back before getting back to saving Daisy. Meanwhile, Iggy and Spike have stolen a bunch of women from Brooklyn, including not Pauline, and they all band together with Daisy to escape when the Mario Bros. Come crashing in. Also, Daisy's dad, the king, has been turned into a fungus that is spread throughout Dino Hatton, and King Koopa is ruling over the city and wants to merge the worlds together. Also, Koopa's girlfriend is jealous of Daisy and tries to kill her. Also, Koopa introduces Daisy to Yoshi, an actual dinosaur. Listen. This film is a mess, and I'm just gonna skip to the end. They manage to escape Koopa's castle, or skyscraper, or whatever. Then Mario and Koopa have a battle in the middle of the single street in Dino Hatton that we see constantly, while Luigi and Daisy hunt down Koopa's girlfriend who stole the MacGuffin to try to merge the universes together. And she dies doing that, but Daisy has the power to do it, so she does it. Bowser turns into slime and Mario wins and saves the day. Mario and Luigi Mario return to their home world, but Daisy stays behind in hers, only to show up 3 weeks later Back to the Future style to set up the sequel. That never happened. Finally, in a post-credit scene, Spike and Iggy sell the story to a Japanese video game company. And that's Super Mario Bros. In a Namely 90s Minute. More or less.
And now, back to the show.
I just realized that my timer is hidden. There it is. All right. So the movie got made. Do you want to hear the detailed plot of the movie, Andrew?
Oh, I'm waiting with bated breath. That was wow.
Oh yes. Following the impact, and this is just a synopsis from Wikipedia, by the way, with my editorializing. Following the impact of a meteorite into the Earth 65 million years ago, the universe split into two parallel dimensions. The surviving dinosaurs escaped into the new dimension, evolving into a humanoid race, but still lizard people, founding the city of Dino Hatton. Yep. In 1973, a large egg and a rock are left at a Catholic orphanage. So first, that first sentence I just said, that was the weird intro voiceover with Homer Simpson. Then they cut to a flashback or earlier in 1973. A large egg and a rock are left at a Catholic orphanage. The egg hatches into a human baby. That's the next scene. 20 years later, the movie starts with Italian-American brothers Mario and Luigi Mario working as plumbers in Brooklyn. The Mario brothers. They're close to being driven out of business by the mafioso Anthony Scapelli's construction company. They meet Daisy at who is an NYU archaeology student who shows Luigi that she has been excavating for dinosaur bones under the Brooklyn Bridge. They witness Scapelli's men sabotaging it by leaving the water pipes open. By the way, Daisy was the one that hatched from a dinosaur egg. But she just goes, I'm an orphan. And then, like, we're orphans. Mario and Luigi fix it, but Iggy and Spike, henchmen and cousins of Koopa, the king of the other dimension, kidnap Daisy, and the brothers pursue them through an interdimensional portal to Dino Hatton. Daisy had given her crystal rock thing that she was left at the orphanage with to Luigi.
Crystal meth. She has a rock of crystal meth. Anyway.
Which probably is why they were on such a crazy adventure.
By the way, everyone's an orphanage in movies. Everyone's an orphan in movies.
Well, could you imagine if they were all orphanages in movies?
Yeah. No, the whole orphan thing is so overused in movies.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in the 90s, I feel like, or late 80s, early 90s. Daisy learns she's descended from dinosaurs and the long-lost princess of the other dimension, and her father was overthrown by King Koopa, and her mother, the queen, was the one that took her to Brooklyn. Iggy and Spike realize that they lost Daisy's crystal meth, and what did you say? Crack rock. In fact, a meteorite fragment that Koopa needs to merge the worlds, and believes that only Daisy could do it because of her royal heritage. Mario and Luigi rescue Daisy, aided by Toad, who is a random guitar-playing dude that then gets devolved into a Goomba, a semi-humanoid dinosaur, as punishment for his protest. Koopa's girlfriend, Lena, obtains the rock, but dies merging the worlds together. She actually, we missed the whole part where they meet Big Bertha, and then she takes them to a strip club, her dancing club, and then they escape with jump boots. Mario and Luigi obtain de-evolution guns and use them to defeat Koopa by devolving him into a primeval slime. Daisy's father is restored as king, and the citizens celebrate and immediately destroy anything with Koopa's likeness. Daisy decides to stay in Dino Hatton, again, this is what the other world is called, and kisses Luigi goodbye as she opens the portal for him and Mario to return to Brooklyn. And then I think it's like either a mid-credit or post-credit scene. 3 weeks later, Daisy arrives at Mario and Luigi's apartment in Brooklyn and asks them to help her on her new mission, setting up the sequel. Or the post-credit scene was Iggy and Spike are living in actual Manhattan, and then they pitched the movie that just happened as a video game to some Japanese investors.
This is a cluster F. I mean, just beyond asinine.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. It's a terrible movie. But the film grossed $20,915,500 dollars in the United States and Canada, selling approximately 5 million tickets in the U.S. In Asia, it's earned 2.7 million from distribution rentals in Japan.
Whoa.
The film grossed probably about 4 mil in the UK. In total, the film grossed 17 mil internationally for a worldwide total of nearly 39 million. But on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 28% based on 43 reviews, with an average rating of 4.1 out of 10. The site's consensus states, despite flashy sets and special effects, Super Mario Bros. Is too light on story and substance to be anything more than a novelty. Metacritic gave it a 35 out of 100 based on 23 critics. CinemaScore, oddly enough, gave it a B+ on a scale from A+ to F.
Wow.
But I mean, CinemaScore is a website that I assume existed long after this movie came out. Like, it didn't exist until probably the aughts. The aughts. Why do I always do that? Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune and Roger Ebert of Chicago Sun-Times on their television program Siskel and Ebert at the Movies gave the film 2 thumbs down, citing tonal inconsistency and a lack of narrative. The film was on their list for one of the worst films of 1993. And finally, Mario creator wow, I've never said his first name out loud before. Shigeru Miyamoto said, in the end, it was a very fun project that they put a lot of effort into. The one thing I still have some regrets about is that the movie may have tried to get a little too close to what the Mario Brothers video game were. And in that sense, it became a movie that was about a video game rather than being an entertaining movie in and of itself.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, it's kind of hard to make some things live action.
Yes. Especially, I mean, animated movies... I mean, you had Disney movies back then, but we didn't have like the computer-generated mill stuff that we have today. Speaking of which, Super Mario Brothers was the first movie based on a video game property, like I said at the top of this. While there have been some commercial successes like the Resident Evil franchise,
sure,
and I say moderate commercial successes, Mortal Kombat, the first one from 1995, The Prince of Persia somehow, the one that casted Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia, I believe, set in the Middle East. And then that got dethroned by the Rampage movie, which The Rock probably carried that one. Couldn't carry Black Adam. Those films didn't have... Oh, he's going to come and kill us. Those films didn't have the critics on their side. And until Detective Pikachu was released in 2019, the movies based on video games hadn't crossed a 60% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which Detective Pikachu got 63, Sonic and Sonic 2 also were above 60%, and all 3 were box office smashes. There's also some indie film that I saw on the list called Werewolves Within, which came out in 2021. That has an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it only made $900,000 on a budget of $6.5 million, which may or may not have been due to COVID. But yeah. So sure. Now that video game movies are popular enough to both be critical, like a D on the critical rating, and make enough money to be worth making, Nintendo and Mario gets a redemption this week with the Super Mario Brothers movie, an animated movie from the people at Illumination Entertainment, who makes Minions, which is a part of the Universal brand. Yeah. The film stars Chris Pratt as Mario, Anya Taylor-Joy. I always thought it was Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. No Daisy. Charlie Day as Luigi. Jack Black as Bowser. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. And they are not a sponsor, but it comes out on April 5th and or 7th. And if you want a more in-depth discussion of the plot of the Super Mario Brothers, or the Super Mario Bros., the movie that we just discussed, you can check out the episode that I did with our friends at All 90s Action All the Time that released it like a week or two ago, because the international release happened before the domestic box office for some reason. Any final thoughts on Super Mario Bros.?
I'm shocked that it saw the light of day with all that chaos. Like, it was the movie that was meant to be, but that no one really wanted. You know what I mean? Like, it was like divine intervention made this movie happen, but
it's impressive that so much studio interference can destroy a movie like that.
Right.
When Mario was like one of the hottest properties at the time.
And the sets were already built.
Yes. So you can blame Disney for screwing up another film. Wow. Although I don't think the darker tone would have done anything for them.
No,
you know?
Probably not.
I think you need it to be lighthearted in a comedy.
Mario's he's coming down off heroin, you know. It's like that one season of 24.
He just grabs a bowl full of mushrooms and then that's how the adventure starts.
It's a me, a Mario.
It's a
Mario,
me.
Mario. That's so ridiculous.
Oh yeah, Mario. Like I knew that from a pub, or I knew that because, and that was a pub trivia question like last month or the month before, and we were the only team that got that question right.
This is hot trash.
It is hot trash. Also, I was like, his name's not officially Mario in the video game canon, by the way. But yeah, I did recently rewatch it for All 90s Action All the Time, and which is my one guest spot this year. They limited it to one guest spot per person per year for this year. But yeah, it's better than I remembered, and I appreciate all of the like little references they make in the film now, or like, you know, because I'm more of a Mario fan than I was when I was like 4.
Yeah.
So I understand like all the deep cut stuff, like Bertha's based on Big Bertha, all that type of stuff. But at the same time, it was just, how did that movie get made?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Never again. But probably, well, definitely again.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins back at it. But yeah, I think. That's what I wanted to do. Last week we did a new segment called Boot or Reboot. I haven't shown you a trailer for either of these two things, but what do you think will be better, the 90s Mario Brother movie or the one coming up this week?
I think I'd say the reboot.
Yeah. Me too. It actually looks good from the reviews I've heard. It's a fairly decent movie. It's more like kids movie, like Minions type movie, but
sure, that's okay.
It doesn't have to be for the 30 to 40 somethings that play.
It's actually a road trip. No, God. It was the stupidest movie in the history of the world.
I think it is a road trip style movie, though. Not like the movie Rat Race or Road Trip, but like, you know, it's a quest. It's just go from A to B to C to D to, you know what I mean?
That sounds stupid.
That's how a lot of adventure films are based, like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
Well, it's not a road trip.
Right, but
like, there's literally a lot of movies that they actually just put the characters in a car together.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, dude, where's my car? Or, yeah. Usually the road trip's used as a set piece to get you from, or not a set piece. It's used to get you from set piece to set piece.
Right.
Yeah,
well, we should get in the
drive.
car to the outro.
And that's it for this week's deep dive edition of Namely 90s. Remember, you can find new episodes out every Monday. Join us next week for another variety show episode that I have no idea what it's on. Find us on Instagram at Namely90s with 90s and tell us what you want us to talk about on future deep dive episodes. If you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Namely90s, also with 90s. Finally, you can also contact us through our website, namely90s.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, Let's Go, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeart, Good Pods, and wherever you get podcasts from. I'm Brandon, that's Andrew, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye. Mario. Goodbye. Mario.
Mario. Hey, Luigi.
So offensive.
Is it more offensive to do the Brooklyn accent or the Italian American stereotype accent?